No, I'm finally going to actually film somebody walking in studio. Because
So
I always
annoying.
film. I know, but I never film the people coming in.
What's going on, man?
Hi, buddy.
Chael Sonnen is here.
He's here.
What up, dudes?
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, what's
Good
going
to be
on?
seen. Everything's going on.
It seems like it.
You've managed to do very well in Bellator. You left the UFC how many years ago?
I don't know, 2013?
Okay.
Right in there?
And they're using a lot of fighters that fought in the UFC, and you've had some good. You're on a 2-fight win streak, and you're fighting Fedor Emelianenko, who is like the most feared heavyweight probably in MMA history.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think he's a talented guy. I got no problem with Fedor. He's not as tough as me, and I
No.
think that toughness outweighs talent, but I can't prove it. But I'm going to find out on October 13th. Thank you for bringing that up, by the way. Tickets on sale this Friday. Were you just about to say that?
I was,
I'm just
yes.
trying to help.
I was.
Yeah, Ticketmaster, all that stuff.
To the
you know
Nassau
all these
Coliseum,
things?
right?
That's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
Chael's a master promoter too. Like you really you were this close to being the light heavyweight champion in the UFC. I mean, John Jones broke his toe, and literally, if that had just gone a few more seconds, he would not have been able to come out and fight in the second round.
Yeah. I almost won the title against Anderson too. I like to spread it around. You know, I've blown it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So you can't just put it on one guy. But that John thing would have been a little fugazi, though. I mean, I would have known. You know, that wasn't much of a way to win a championship.
But you still would have fought as the champion and had to give him a shot back.
That's right. You are right. I would have officially been champion, though. That's true.
It would have been a little fugazi. Yeah.
Are
but-
you surprised that, like, it seems like hardcore MMA fans get really upset when the pro wrestling style stunts really, really work? Because every time, like, the most exciting sort of moments that draw in the mainstream to MMA, not for hardcore fans, I'm sure,
Right.
but the moments that draw in the mainstream are those pro wrestling moments. It's when Brock Lesnar runs into a cage unexpected. It's the whole buildup that you had with Anderson Silva. Like, all of that is pro wrestling, and it seems like it really bugs the hardcore MMA guys that that's even involved in the sport.
Yeah, and there's enough to spread around, right? I mean, the hardcore fan has no idea why he likes it. He thinks he does, but he doesn't even know. It's up to the performer to invoke that emotion and draw him in. And then ultimately, the WWE is a big joke. I mean, that sucks. So we hate being compared to it too. Because
Why do you think the WWE sucks?
we hate being compared to it because it's such a circus. But the other side of it is, okay, let's go more advanced. Let's not use the insult of the clown show that is the World Wrestling Entertainment. Let's just use the reality of Hollywood. Every single thing you see there is scripted too. But for some reason, we don't call it Hollywood because those actors are good enough performers to drag us in. But yes, some guys are reading scripts and there's promos. The only time you need to preserve the integrity of the sport is when the door shuts. And as long as it's a pure competition, it doesn't matter what goes on outside of it. And you have all these fans, if I can finish this point, you have
Yes,
all these
please.
fans that will tell you how this guy talked his way into that or this guy talked his way into that. None of those fans have ever watched the show on mute. Even they don't understand how much they love the talking and the commentary. They just like to be the smart guy in the room that can point it out and go, oh my gosh, that's a promo, that's an angle. They're trying to sell tickets. Yes, stupid. They are trying to sell tickets. That's why we do this in an arena. You know,
It's a
and the guy-
business.
that's right. The guy always thinks he's the smartest guy in the room when he can see the magician moving his hand. It's like, you're not the smartest guy. You're just annoying.
They have to make you want. Sorry, they have to make
Yeah.
you want to watch the fight. You were amazing at that because people wanted to see you fight because you're a
Whether
great
they
fighter,
like
but
you or they don't like you, they buy a ticket to either see you win or they buy a
lose.
ticket to see you get your ass kicked.
McGregor, people want to see him fight. Colby Covington even now is getting to that point where people want to see him fight
sure.
because he talks so much.
When did you decide WWE sucked? Because, you know, a lot of your promos that you've done
Well,
are based on WWE, WWF promos.
And I wouldn't agree with that. I've heard those comparisons. I don't know how strongly I would disagree there, but I don't know that I would fully agree. There seems to be something when a performer is reading lines that it then gets compared to WWE. Well, why don't you compare it to Hollywood? That's the same thing Will Smith and Johnny Depp are doing.
But don't you have lines that,
I
like,
can-
line for line are the same as, like, Billy Graham and people like that?
I have used that stuff. I have
Right,
paid
that's a-
homage to those guys. Yes, but again, I could go back to Hollywood and tell you where Billy Graham got it, and he got it from some movie that he saw. I mean, those are the best characters to grab. I guess the point I'm trying to make is anytime there is a scripted promo and a line, the fan will be greatly resistant to that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not in Hollywood, then they always dumb us down to the clown show that Vince is putting on. So,
But when did you decide that Vince's show was a clown show?
well, I mean, look, it's what it is. If those guys were skilled performers, they would be in Hollywood. There's a reason they make $100,000 a year instead of $10 million a year, right? I mean, this is just the reality of it. And the same thing goes with us fighters. We're doing the best that we can with some of these promos. And if we were better at it, we wouldn't be having to go and trade punches and kicks with some guy half naked when we're just wearing a mouthpiece. I mean, it's just the reality of it.
So
But
you
it is
think
an
it's-
insult to us to get compared to WWE. We don't like that.
So you think it's a major downgrade that Ronda Rousey's in WWE?
I think it was a really good move for Ronda to go to WWE. But, I mean, she's another one. The whole thing was smoke and mirrors. I mean, if you'll remember back, it was 4 years ago, there was talk she could beat Floyd Mayweather. And people were
Right.
were believing it.
Although if she got a hold of him, I still think she'd beat him. However, getting in there would be a hard time because
Right.
Amanda kind of she goes in high for a takedown, and I think Floyd would be able to combat that.
Yes, you think so? Yes, of course. And that's meant to be fun. That's not an insult to her. What I'm just
Right.
saying is that's where she belongs.
What about Brock? I mean, Brock's does stuff in WWE too. He's their champ.
Yeah. I mean, what about Brock? Brock sucks, but what
He
about
d- oh,
Brock? He's
I
a
don't
good
know.
draw.
I wanted your opinion.
Yeah, Brock's a tremendous draw. He's
Yeah.
a once-in-a-lifetime attraction.
But as a fighter, not good.
Well, I just think as an athlete in whole, you got to look at his career a little bit closer. He and I were the same year in college wrestling, and Brock was very effective. He was an undefeated national champion. Now, the other side of that coin, he was 60 pounds heavier than the guys that he was wrestling. He was 60 pounds heavier than the guy he had for the national championship. I could tell you if I had even 6 pounds on a guy, he couldn't make it into overtime with me. 60 pounds. It's relevant to it. He still got his hand raised. He still found a way to do it. I'm not trying to insult Brock as much as just to say there's a place for everybody. And that guy is a legitimate attraction.
You did say he sucks.
Yeah. And that's accurate.
I mean, just
Yeah, but what I'm saying as far as an attraction goes, the WWE was a really good fit.
Well, Brock. The thing about Brock is, I have a weird feeling. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I don't. He did beat Frank Mir. He did beat Mark Hunt, which even though he just kind of laid on him, he still beat Mark Hunt. But then he loses to Kane and Alistair Overeem. So I think he's kind of 50-50 whether he's going to win or not. I didn't like the Cormier promo as much. I'd rather see Cormier fight other people than him. But I get why Cormier wants to fight
Like
him.
who? Who would you throw in there?
I don't know. I'd rather see Curtis Blades get a shot, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I would enjoy that fight more.
Really?
I would enjoy that fight more than him and Brock, yeah.
But you
personally.
know that it's
But I
not going to
get
sell
why they're doing it.
pay-per-views.
If I was him, I would 100%
Right.
do Brock.
I think you're bluffing.
I really mean that.
I think if I told you that Brock was going to fight Curtis Blades tomorrow versus the reaction if I said Brock was going to fight Cormier tomorrow, I think you'd be more
Oh
excited
no
for Brock.
no! I mean Curtis Blades against Cormier.
Yeah.
I would rather see. No, I really wouldn't. I don't care about Brock fighting.
Really? Is that
I
right?
don't care.
All right.
I respect the fact that he won, but I don't care as much about him fighting. I really don't. I mean, I
You don't
watch
even
it.
buy into the attraction, really.
No, it is an attraction. It sells a lot, but I would rather watch a lot of other guys
For you,
fight.
though,
Like
yeah.
I was happy to see Ngannou fight
Sure.
for the title, and most
Yeah.
of the public doesn't know Ngannou. I don't really care that much about Brock, but I will watch it.
And Curtis is good for sure. I just
Yeah.
as far as a draw and created emotion, that surprises me.
Yeah.
Now you're going up to heavyweight to fight Fedor, right?
Yep.
Was that
Which, by the way, you were middleweight, and then you're light heavyweight, and then you're heavy. That's a tremendous jump up.
Yeah.
I tell you what, when I started this sport, that's what we did. I had my 5th or 6th fight before I even saw a scale. We didn't know anything about it, and then they came up with the weight classes, which is a lot better for the sport. But I was still the old school mentality. I never cared. I never cared about the weight classes or are you ready or how much time do you. I don't know anything about that, man. If you want to fight and he wants to fight, you got to go fight.
Like, so you don't even need all this time and you just you're ready to fight whoever, whenever.
Whoever, whenever. Yep.
Right.
And they could change it. I mean, I'm expecting it to be Fedor, and I don't know the Fedor ever pulling out of fights, but if he did, I will still be at the Nassau Coliseum on October 13th.
Why was Fedor never able to get his deal done with UFC? I mean, I know for a while Dana really
That was
wanted
his
to make
team,
it
I
happen.
think, people around him.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's my understanding. I only have Dana's view of it. I think he came on and shared it with you at some point, but at any rate, Dana just said they really wanted to do a co-promote. They were forcing themselves to not only give Fedor a deal, but then the management and the team all needed a deal. And Dana's going, you don't offer anything. What are you talking about a co-promote? That's more the boxing model, and they just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, he did. He just wasn't interested in doing that. But it wasn't Fedor himself. I think it was the people.
It sucks.
The people around him. Yeah.
Seems like a lot of money left on the table.
It was, yeah, but he was a little older by then too. You know what I mean? He still was a draw. He's still a huge
Sure.
name, but he was a little bit. It wasn't like say 10 years earlier. It probably would have been more tempting.
And it's hard to know if there's money left on him. I mean, Fedor's cleaned up everywhere he goes.
He has, right?
I guess that's true. Yeah. You guys are going to make a lot of money for this fight, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure the way that would work. Now, there would be a pay-per-view structure and some other stuff, whereas Coker will come up front and just go, look, here's what your participation is. I hear
see.
your point on that. I'm just saying, I don't think we need to shed a tear for Fedor. I think he did. I think he made good deals.
But he retired and then he comes back. I guess it's hard to walk away, man. It's like when you they're talking about Chuck fighting again. fighting. I guess Tito is the rumor. I think.
When you're really good at something and that's what you do,
Yeah,
it
but
probably is difficult to walk away.
Yeah,
You know?
is it hard? I mean, as an athlete, to go like, "Fuck, man, I don't want to stop doing this."
Yep.
It is, right?
Yeah, because it's a different form of commodity. You know, it's not just the money, but those cheers and that fame and that attention. You know, Rosie O'Donnell said it best when she said fame is a drug, but it is. You know,
Yeah.
to walk into those arenas, to have people with your T-shirts and holding up your names and signs, you can't get that commodity anywhere else. And
Right.
you know, you just simply can't. And as fighters, our careers all do in the same, which is face down and embarrassed. But until you're at that point, you usually go out there.
So there was
Again.
no part of you after you were gone from the UFC that was like, you know what, that's a career. I'm done.
Yes, I did for sure, and I was very happy for about 2 weeks, and then I was just bored as could be. Didn't know what to do with my time. Didn't know what to do with my skills that I had. You know, I liked going to the gym. That's how I saw the guys. I had a very close relationship with my coaches. You know, that was just how I saw them. So I came back, but I wouldn't want to leave anything on the table. I did that with my amateur wrestling career. I've always wondered, what if I would have gone one more cycle? Could have I made the Olympic team? Could have I been an Olympic champion? I'll never know because I walked away.
Is that how guys get hurt too? But you can get hurt at any point in the sport. You can get hurt
sure.
your first fight. But is that what happens sometimes? Like Ali came back and he fought, and you're certainly not in that category of having been damaged. But like they just want one more fight, and then all of a sudden something really dangerous happens.
Yeah, and Ali spoke on that. Yeah, he said, you know, I let my mind go in there and get my ass kicked or something along those lines. I was going to give you the exact quote and I lost place of it, but I think there's a lot of truth to that. Fighters go out there too many times. We're seeing Chuck go through it right now, right? Chuck wasn't very good when he left, and that was 7 years ago. You don't get better at something by not doing it, but you
Right.
can convince yourself that you have gotten better, right? Chuck doesn't look at it as I've been sitting on my ass for 7 years deteriorating. He looks at it as I am undefeated in the last 7 years.
And I've been resting. I'm giving my
Right.
body a break.
Right.
Gave my body a break. The guys aren't as good today as they were back then. You sell yourself these things, and it's not to tease Chuck. It's a reality that we all go through. No matter how many times we get proven that analogy doesn't work, we still subscribe to it.
So you will watch fighters now and kind of fall into that trap of like, oh, I mean, these guys are good, but nothing compared to the guys that I was in there with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I see myself do that a little bit, but it's really not true, right? I mean, I see people make this argument all the time with basketball that Jordan was the best ever, or with tennis about McEnroe. It's like, guys, hold on. You're not actually complimenting Michael Jordan at all. You're insulting the sport of basketball. You're saying the sport has not grown since 1989. You're insulting the entire sport. I mean, it's basic biology. Things either evolve or they become extinct.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And to say that we're done, we figured out who the best of all time is 20, 30 years ago, however long ago it was, says that we're done with the sport, right?
You know, I got to ask you something. You look very nice today. Did you get a haircut?
I mean, it's coiffed.
Really?
You know, I've
Yeah.
gotten haircut.
He's
I've trimmed
unshaven,
up a
which I
little
kind
bit,
of
yeah.
like.
I'm more than aware of who you are, but I'm not positive we met before. When I was coming up here today, he goes, "Yeah, Sam Roberts." My guy told me, "Yeah, he's got an afro." I'm going, "No, he's got a. You look like a real gentleman
Oh,
today."
thank you very much. Well, I
That's
heard
what
you
I'm
were-
trying to say. I'm trying to give you. You look very nice.
I really appreciate that. I knew you were coming in, and you always look great. So I was like, you know what? Let me make sure that I look proper for Chael Sonnen.
Shirt's
All right.
buttoned.
You know? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. A
shirt's
nice
buttoned.
collar.
Yeah,
you know,
you're
it's not a
looking good.
not,
He
not
does
a
look good.
coincidence.
You brought up Colby earlier. Colby Covington.
That's right. Yeah, and he's from Oregon, and I know he looks up to you.
That's right. And you go. Thank you for that. But you guys had him in here.
We
What'd you
did.
think? Nice guy.
I like. You know, it's funny.
He
I
doesn't
liked,
like Jim.
No, he doesn't like me. I liked Colby. I had a really good time with him. He was funny, and then when you're sitting next to somebody, you can pick up their energy. And I'm like, he's a nice dude. He's a promotion guy, and he's smart. He wants his name to be out there. He wants to fight Woodley. And this is before the fight with RDA.
May I guess why he doesn't like you before you tell me?
Yes.
Can I guess?
Sure.
Is it because of Matt Serra? Were you guilty by association?
No.
Okay.
It was because we had the next week, we had Colby booked to be on UFC Unfiltered 2 days later. It was just
Okay.
the schedule. 3 weeks out, we had him booked. And then our producer booked Kamaru Usman in studio.
Okay.
Because in studio guests are harder to get in New York. These guys are in Vegas or they're in camp in Florida or whatever the fuck. It's hard to. So we take guys in studio. So we figured, hey, Colby likes to talk shit and promote Kamaru Usman as well. And then all of a sudden, he's in with us and Colby's on the phone and he feels like we are setting him up. Because Matt wasn't there that day, but it was pre-booked by weeks. And so he goes out and he goes, Jim Norton's a loser. I'll never do his podcast again. Like I set up
You said you're a nerd.
a nerd. Oh, he's not wrong, but I still like him. I still think he's fun to watch. I was honored to be lumped in with. He mentioned a whole lot of people he doesn't like, so I'm like, I'm in good company. But it was like we didn't set him up. That kind of annoyed me. It's like I didn't set you up, dude. It's like, come on, you like to promote. You like to. I even asked him when he was in here. I'm like, does it help you to go out and have this kind of stuff so you're not obsessed with the fight? He goes, yeah, a lot of guys obsess on the fight. I don't obsess on the fight. I'm thinking of all this other stuff. So I didn't think it'd be a big deal at all, him and Kamaru talking. Who gives a shit? He's promoting for RDA, but he's already trained. So it's like, so he got mad at me, thought I set him up, but he was never set up.
Sure, I see your intentions there. I mean, I fully get why you did that.
I didn't even book it, my producer did.
I will share with you, as a fighter, when we do end up in that situation, it feels like a setup. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could see him being annoyed about it, but it was like he was booked 3 weeks out, and then I asked Chris, my producer, I'm like, I don't book this show, the UFC does. And Chris goes, well, I actually booked Kamaru because they said he's going to be in New York. Do you want him? They offered him, and he took him. But it wasn't like Jim Norton set him
Sure.
up. What the fuck do I care?
It's a fair explanation.
Right.
Yeah, but I still like Colby. I don't care if he hates me. He's fun to watch. He's an
You're in the
animal.
Nerd Bash movement.
I don't care. I still want to see him fight Tyron
You're the
Woodley.
coolest nerd ever. I wouldn't call you a nerd. You called yourself that.
Thank you.
You're a cool nerd.
I'm a creep, but I do want to see him fight Tyron Woodley. I really want to see.
So,
that.
fellas, you were mentioning that I'm fighting Fedor
Yes.
on
Oh,
October
yeah.
13th
That's right.
at Nassau.
And
yeah.
tickets are on sale this
right?
Friday.
Tickets. That's right. That way at Ticketmaster
Yes.
or Bellator.com. What else were we talking about?
Well, I also wanted to talk to you about the fact that you are involved in real estate, and that's one of my favorite things. You have something a lot of guys don't. It's like you could make a lot of money without fighting if you wanted to. Like
I have other interests. That's nice of you
Yeah.
to say, but I do have other interests. Yeah, politics are my biggest passion. I've never seen a football game in my life. I've never seen a basketball game. My uncle won two NBA titles. I've never seen a basketball game. It drives him crazy. I'm just
Who'd he
not a
play for?
sports guy. He won it. So he was a 68 Tokyo. I apologize, 64 Tokyo Olympic champion. Won a 65 title for the Celtics, and then I don't know where he got his next title.
Wow.
He might have even won 3 NBA championships. I know he won 2, but he might have won 3.
Is his last name Sonnen?
Mel Counts.
Mel Counts?
Yeah.
But you just don't care. Sports are not your thing.
I was just not into sports, and I wish that I was. I have friends that are big sports guys, and they're just passionate about it. I guess where I went to this, I was telling you, I do have some other interests that might even surprise you, but they're not really sports related.
Well, we talked on your podcast once, and you do a great podcast.
Yeah.
buddy.
And it was about the whole banking scandal, and you had a pretty good explanation because it was like, well, how come nobody went to jail? And you
What's
had a
the
pretty-
banking scandal?
With the whole thing with the mortgages and all that stuff a few years ago,
Oh.
like why people didn't go to jail for that. You pointed out that it was hard to find people accountable because so much of it was just done on the phone.
Yep.
One guy calls and says, "Hey, do that," and it's not like you're not trading names all the time.
It was very shady the way they did it. If you see The Big Short with Steve Carell,
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
yeah, it was an excellent movie, but and Christian Bale as well. It was an excellent movie, but it was so incredibly accurate. And I was in the industry at that time, and yes, it was the banks that were just a voice over the phone that were then telling the little guys how to do it. If you send it to us and the paperwork says this, we can pass the deal through. They were doing that all day long. And you could never track it back to them. And the government didn't even want to look into the banks. They just went after the mortgage brokers and the realtors. And those guys had fault too. Those guys had
Sure.
dirt on their hands. But there still is an example that the bank is the boss. And when the boss is telling you over the phone, do it this way, and you do it that way, I think he needs to probably be looked at as well.
But there's no recording of that.
No, of course
He's never
not.
written it down. It's
you
just,
don't even know his name.
Yeah.
You always know in a corporate structure, like when you're emailing with somebody and they either call you or ask you to come talk to them, that's because they don't want a paper trail. Because
Sure.
all the emails get saved. But you can still call somebody or talk to somebody face to face, and that's
Then it's your word against
that's
theirs.
hearsay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember having that conversation.
Yeah, and that's really how it went. You're on a bank. The bank's in Maryland. The bank's in Chicago. The bank's in New York. We're out in Portland, Oregon, and the market's going upside down. And these guys are walking away saying, "I don't know anything about it."
So now you probably never got screwed financially because you're one of the guys who knows how to look at your finances. You know what to look for. So at least that's one advantage is they probably couldn't screw with your money. Like everyone loses money when they get rich and they have an accountant take care of it. They don't get their taxes paid. And,
Yeah, that's one of those things. Yeah, you kind of got to do that yourself. I do have an accountant, but yeah, you got to be involved in that. You got to see where all of that stuff is going. And then it's tough too. Over time, you trust a guy, you still got to be involved. You still got to
do.
take a look at it. Yeah. And
I don't sign over power of attorney to any.
That's
I have to
right.
sign every check.
And if you don't fully understand it, you better fake like you understand it. Right? You got to rattle the cage a few times just to make them think you're paying attention. But I mean that is just the reality. That's a little sign of business that isn't in the books, but it's the truth.
Guys who lose
Basic
everything.
street smarts.
Yeah.
They let the manager do everything. The
That's
manager
right.
doesn't pay taxes. He takes loans out of it. He fucking makes investments they don't know about and
Yep.
loses money.
Yeah.
but if
You
you're
just sign
not-
over power of attorney, and it's just like you're hands off, and it's crazy.
That's a
it
big
ends
problem,
in
yeah.
disaster all
That's
the
right.
time.
Yeah, if once a year you're not calling up your team and you're yelling, even if you got to make it up, if you're not doing that, you're not doing good business.
You got to call up and give them some shit so they know that you're on it and you're looking at it.
Yep. Even if they go, whoa, hey, you got this all wrong. Okay, well, keep telling me, but I've done my part here. Yeah.
Right.
You've
right.
called and you've yelled a little bit.
How did you feel about your exit from UFC? Was it fair, unfair?
It was by my choice. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, I felt I felt fine about it. I mean, I missed the UFC. UFC was great, but I missed Bellator too. I haven't got a fight since January. I wish I was fighting tonight. I love it. It's a seductive event. I work really hard in the gym to go off and show it off. And I don't ever know. You know, Fedor's a tough son of a bitch. I know I can beat him, but I know he can beat me too. I don't ever fight guys that I know. That's what a bully does. I never know, and I enjoyed that rush. I enjoy that. You know, you got a 50-50 chance. Those aren't very good odds.
What about what about getting popped for drugs? Like, you hear sometimes people go like, sometimes it's people claim it's a fuck up on the test part. Sometimes people go, no, I fucked up. I did this. Yeah, I got caught. Whatever. Like, when you get popped, is it one of those like, how the hell does this happen? Or, oh shit, yeah, I did.
Well, so I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
For me, it was, how did this happen? Because I thought I could get away with it. And I remember when I got the phone call and he said, well, they found this and they found this and they found this in your system. And it was silent on my end. Because I was waiting to. Did they find this and this?
Sure.
And that? Okay, so it's currently 3-7. I came out ahead, but I still got to go deal with these 3, and that was really the situation. But you know, I will tell you, when I went through it was a little bit tough. Like, just by example, I've never taken a steroid in my life. I've never even been accused of them. But when you pop for now what they're calling PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs. Look, performance and enhancing are positive terms. So how all of a sudden these came relevant on a list, I really don't know. But this is the place we're at. And if you get popped, it's steroids. That's all the public understands. It's steroids. And I just steered into it. I mean, I was making T-shirts with syringes on them. I just went along with it because I found that there was really no advantage to explaining. And there wasn't a tremendous downside for being guilty, which was a surprise. And I don't say that to skate anything I did, but when I lived through it, I thought, okay, my life as I know it in this business is over. But surprisingly, the public, they didn't really care.
Do you think, like, guys,
it seems like if people want to pay to see you fight or just pay to hear you talk or whatever, they're still going to do it, right? Like getting popped for whatever is not going to stop them. If John Jones gets announced for fighting again, Brock Lesnar's fighting again, like, people want to just see these guys fight.
The public doesn't care as much about the fact that Brock did it. Some fighters do. John is different. Do you believe John?
John is saying that he had a tainted supplement. No, that's a very tough story. I mean, I know that John was using by looking at him. You know, we all know our own. He could look at me and knew what I was taking. We all know our own. So no, I don't think that the tainted supplement theory will work, but I also don't know what his punishment will be. Look, he's got a 4-year max. He's got a floor of 2 years. And if you look at precedent, I think he's only got to look at that 2 years. I think we'll see him back next summer.
And you look at someone like Junior Dos Santos, and he was actually acquitted. They said but there was some pharmaceutical, I guess, processing company or whatever in Brazil. There was 3 fighters that got popped, but he really didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's got to be a nice relief.
Yeah, he and Little Nog both went down on that together. I think they're teammates. I know they used to be, but they both, and Anderson, they all go down on the same charge, and they all got cleared.
Did Anderson get cleared?
He did. Because they ruled that it was a tainted supplement. And what that term means is just he took a supplement. By example, I'm drinking a water right now. There's something goofy in the water. I drink it. I just had no...
Thought it was water.
I had no knowledge.
Right.
And that's a really tough test. Fans hear that and they get irritated and go, tainted supplement. I've heard that one before. But it's a really stringent to actually come to that conclusion. And they did it. They spent the money and they did. I mean, I'm talking about USADA, the testing organization, did it. The ones that are trying to persecute him, the ones who are, if they rule him innocent, are likely going to find themselves in a lawsuit. They did it and they still came out and go, guys, we got this wrong. He's innocent.
He didn't do it.
Big deal.
That's
He deserves that to be said about him.
Yeah,
he was guilty before. He was guilty last time.
Fuck him last time, but
yeah,
now
they caught him, but he was clear on this one.
I interviewed him about it, and to hear him talk about it, he was very, very, like, just to be accused falsely of that is just, it's horrible.
The stuff that you got popped for, what type of performance enhancers were they, if not steroids? Like, now that you can explain it without being in a defensive position.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so here's the thing about that is all medication has to enhance you, right? That's the first thing the FDA makes you prove. And I was always stuck on this when I would be before commissions. And they asked me, have you ever taken anything to enhance your performance? And I'm under oath. I'm going, guys, in my life, I've never taken anything unless I thought it would enhance my performance.
Right.
That's all I'm looking to take. I've never taken a drug. I've never had a drop of alcohol. But if it's going to make me better and it's legal, I'm in. And that used to be the test. I came through the NCAA. We had to take classes on what you could take. Look, if it was a legal prescription from a doctor, it was fair game. That used to be the rule in the sport. Somewhere they changed that rule. And here we are, and all of a sudden I was in the hot seat. So that's kind of what happened for me. But
I see.
I was taking it purely for enhancement of my performance. I've never gone to a doctor and said, "Doc, I feel great. Can you bring me down?"
Right.
Never.
Right.
I believe that'd be malpractice if he said yes.
Is it one
would
of
be.
those things where they figure it's getting to a point where guys are so good and they're so strong, and the sport, somebody's going to get killed, and I think that's what they're worried about, is that somebody isn't like
And crooked doctors, right? I mean, guys
Yeah.
do find doctors that'll just write scripts for anything.
Yep.
And then it becomes, when you do have a legit prescription, you're kind of getting lumped into all the guys that have wacky doctors.
Yep, you're talking about doctor shopping. Yep, where you
Yeah.
go around and we're seeing that on higher levels now with this big opioid crisis, where guys are going
Yeah.
over to this doc and it's controlled, but they just go to this doc too, and they get multiple scripts and they figure out how to do it. But and that can be a problem. But as far as the way the rules worked, it was really tough. We have a totally different understanding of them now. I was the first guy ever tested at a competition back prior to me testing hot. It was just on fight night. You got to show up clean on fight night. So when they changed some of the rules without telling anybody, it was a tough spot.
Yeah.
because guys who are used to doing it a certain way, you have to. Younger fighters, it might be a little easier for because they've kind of had to come in with these rules. But once USADA stepped in, it seemed like it was harder for guys who had been doing things a certain way, now all of a sudden to have to stop doing that.
There was just a learning curve. I mean, the sport's better where it is now. It's better getting rid of guys that were doing what I was doing. I'm not sitting here trying to give you guys a defense.
Right.
I'm trying to speak candidly on it. I was guilty, and they found me guilty. But what I'm saying is, if you change the rules, it is kind of important that you let people know. You know,
Right.
if you change the speed sign through town that's been there for 20 years, and you do it in the dark of night,
Right.
the next morning it's a little unfair to ticket a guy instead of letting him know we have now changed the rules. Okay, well, if you change the rules,
Yeah.
then we got to operate within these rules.
Right.
I was completely within the rules the way they used to be.
I understand. So, like, to me, one of my favorite things that you ever did was the build to that Anderson Silva fight. I still think that in terms of building towards a fight, specifically anywhere in MMA, it's tough to imagine a fight that had a better build, a better story. And I like the theatrics of everything.
I appreciate
obviously. How did you and him coexist after? Because that wasn't sort of a cooperative build. That was you saying, I'm going to turn, whether people think this is a big money fight or not, I'm going to turn this into a massive event, and you did.
Yeah, he was tough, you know, and Anderson does not understand it. And there are guys in this life, and you guys will know them too, that have a whole bunch of money, and so they think they're really smart, because a lot of times intelligence and money go hand in hand. He's a dum-dum that ended up with a whole bunch of money. So it was really hard to bring him along and get him to see what we were doing here. And it has afterwards too. I thought, well, you know what? He beat me fair and square. We're going to shake hands and walk away. And it's hard to do with him. There's a real arrogant attitude that you're met with there, and there's an intelligence that he has, and it's like, Anderson, man, you don't have any of those things. You're a dumb cage fighter just like me.
Right.
So let's just take our T-shirts off and do this thing one more time.
Right.
He Anderson though, but you got in his head so bad after that second fight where you tried the spinning back fist and fell, and he, I guess, put a knee in your chest. He won the fight. He cried. He brought his kids into the cage and was crying. Like, beating you meant so much to, like, you were in his head.
Right.
And
Well,
you,
that was the one where he's talking about Brazilian kids, eating mud and doing all that, right?
And after that first fight, which was, I guess, it was a triangle, I guess, then with the fifth, was it the third?
Yeah,
It was the fifth round. And you beat him 4.5 rounds of that fight, and he knew it. And if you had just stayed away in that fight, you would have won, but you didn't, which was amazing to me that you didn't stay away.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I've got 3 10-8 rounds in my whole life, and they're all against him. And I had his number. He just wasn't a very hard fight for me, but he sure was hard to beat for me. Right? He
Yeah.
got his hand raised both times, and it was fair and square. So I don't really have an animosity there, but I think the question was, how do we coexisted since? And
And more about, does he have an animosity? Because I
Yeah.
know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, he's still very frustrating for me. It is very frustrating. But the sport and the industry as a whole learned a lot from that. I mean, I definitely changed the industry, the way
Yeah.
that this sport is promoted, and the way that the guys will handle themselves building and leading up to fights. And that could be for better or worse. I'll let the audience decide. But without question, I changed it.
I do enjoy when fighters started looking at that model and trying to repeat it, but so many of them are so bad at talking. That
Sure.
it was almost like, what are you doing, man? Don't
that's-
worry about don't worry about attempting that. Just fight.
And that's where it comes back to the WWE comparison, right? Because
Right.
they're not very good at it either. And that's why, that's why we don't get equated to, say, the Hollywood model, where it's, look, yeah, they're still playing characters and reading scripts. It's not real in Hollywood either.
Right.
But
You
But we
don't have any
get that
desire
credit.
to go to WWE, or did you at some point
Oh,
discuss it?
way back in my life, I was 20 years old, and I was between my sophomore and junior year in college, and I went out to something called the Power Plant, which was owned by WCW,
Sure,
if you
sure.
remember that,
Of
Ted
course.
Turner's organization. And of everybody that tried out, only me and another guy were invited to come back. But I was going to finish college. I had 2 years left. And then I thought I was going to pursue that, or at least keep that an option. And WCW ended up going out of business, and I never looked back. I went into the UFC.
Yeah, it's the Colby Covington is a guy I want to, because he actually broke the wall and said, "Hey, I'm just doing a character to sell fight." And to me, I didn't know why he did that. Like, you never did that. Like, you were almost willing to say, like, because I know you, and I know you're a nice guy, and
There's a term, and it's called being afraid of the heat.
like wanting to tell people, like, hey, this is just a role, but you never really did that.
No.
You were gracious when you lost. Like, you didn't turn. You were like, hey, Anderson.
But he never for a
He's a true
second
champion.
was afraid of the heat.
Never afraid of the heat. You never seemed to mind walking around and having people wonder, is that who this guy is all the time?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't seem to. Do you think it's bad to break the fourth wall? Does it hurt what he's doing? Or anybody who does that?
Overall, I think that it is. And I never would have broke it either. I would have just gone around with everybody hating me and getting daily death threats and secretly laughing about it. Going out and invoking it. I do believe that is the best way, that the magician takes it to the grave. But, the sport grew right around that time when I was doing all the crazy stuff. I had a microphone so many times. I'm not that good of an actor. I can give you a few good lines. I can keep a straight face for a little bit. I can piss off a whole bunch of people. But I can't do it as many hours of a day as they started expecting me to do it. So that's why I was forced to drop it. Colby is doing something a little bit different, where he is coming out and entertaining. And so many guys will wait for the UFC to come in and bring them opportunities like this one, or to set up cameras. Colby's the first guy ever to go hire his own camera crew, his own production crew, and start marketing and promoting himself in his own way. Took him all the way to a world championship fight. His skills took him to a world championship. But he's going to be another one, the same as I gave myself credit a moment ago for changing the sport and the way that things are promoted, and I did. Colby is also offering something very new and innovative by simply bringing in his own production crews and creating his own channels and going out there. Well, let's see where it goes. But I do believe he's also going to change the sport.
Yeah, because people will watch it just to see him get his ass kicked. I mean, it's crazy to say that.
Which
like,
is what you want.
I don't really love Conor, but I'll watch him fight because I either want to see. He's always beating up guys I like, but
Yeah.
I'll still watch him because I would love to see somebody beat him.
Sure.
So I will watch those fights.
Yeah.
You watch the people you hate too.
Yeah, I watched Conor for some of that, and a lot of it I watched to be entertained. But, there's all the people that like to say that they don't like to talk and all of this stuff in the sport, which those guys will never make a dollar in this business, right? But they love to come out and be the biggest experts. Every single one of them, when Conor fights, they hush everyone down in their living room and then turn the volume up so they can hear his post-fight speech. So those very same people that say they don't like it, they love it. They just have that lack of awareness about themselves.
Yeah.
And they want to sound like you said. They want to sound like they're more informed people by going, I don't like all that. But if it's genuine, I like it. With you, it was 100% genuine. With Conor,
Yes.
I feel like it's genuine. Like, I don't look at Conor and go, he's full of shit. Like, when
Right,
that guy's
right.
talking, I'm like, that's who this guy is.
You can always tell when
I
people
agree.
are acting, and you're like, you're not an actor, man. Like, I can see
Right.
that. You're a fighter. You're great at this, but I don't want to see you act.
It's cringeworthy.
It is.
When they do, yeah. When they think they fool you, or the guy's got the great line and he drops the line, it looks like the cat that ate the canary, and then the interview asks him a follow-up question. And he wasn't expecting a follow-up question. Like when he
Right.
played it through and practiced it in the mirror, he never anticipated a follow-up question. Either drop the mic and walk out or rehearse a follow-up question, dum-dum.
Yeah, because he's doing that thing that you talked about where it's like, you're just reading a script. You're not,
Right.
this isn't coming off your head at
It's
all.
not coming off
Yeah.
your head, yeah. And then you won't have help, right? The commentators won't help you. So you don't really have a tag team partner like you do when you're with Vince. So yeah, you got to be a chess player. You got to be 2 and 3 steps ahead.
Because you're putting yourselves over.
Sure.
But there's not somebody else. You're creating a story and getting that out direct to the audience. This
Right.
isn't a cooperative
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Jose Aldo tried doing that when he was going to fight Conor. He got like he got out of his thing, and it just didn't feel right. I'm like, you're the quiet guy. Be the quiet guy. Like, that's who you are. It didn't seem right when he was trying to taunt him back.
Sure, and guys in our sport right now are also trapped in a misconception of I have to talk trash. I've got to talk trash. That's what Dana White loves. That's what Scott Coker loves. No, you don't have to talk trash. You just have to talk, right? If they ask you at the end of a fight, who do you want next, and you say, I don't care, I know what your message is. Your message is to sound like a tough guy that's willing to fight anybody, but it's not what you said. You said you don't care.
Right.
If I'm a fan and you don't care, how can I?
Right.
You have to have an answer. You must have an answer at all times, whatever it is, but you've got to say something. We're not holding a camera and a micro. I've been at press conferences with guys. I have set record numbers for press conferences. I have sold out press conferences. They've been on free TV. They've streamed live and have done record numbers. Some prick is always sitting up there across from me that goes, I don't even know why we're talking. I'm just here to fight. I'm not here to talk. Well, that's not true. You're at a press conference, stupid. Literally, this is all you're here to do is to talk. You know, I've seen people flown in, some from Brazil, some from Russia, from across the world. I couldn't even imagine the journeys they've come on to sit at a press conference and they're nice. I've seen females do it in nice dresses or guys do it in nice suits and go, I don't want to talk. That's not what I do. Let's go, next question, and we won't come back to you.
Right.
Glad that we know. We also won't cut this up. We also won't make this go viral on the internet. We also won't see you on SportsCenter tonight. But fair enough. We know where you stand.
And it's one of those things when you call a guy out, even if it's a guy you're not going to get, normally that guy has to respond, so that pushes it one step forward. And then you can respond to him. And it may work or it may not work.
Yep.
But I mean, Ally Aquinta, everyone always talks about because he's fucking goes on Twitter and just blasts people, so they kind of have to respond.
But it gets people interested.
It gets people interested, and people have to be interested to buy tickets.
He's great. Ally Aquinta gets a bad rap. Ally
I love
Aquinta.
him.
He's awesome.
I love Ally Aquinta.
And he is a prick. That's true. And he is mad. That's true. And he does have a chip on his
Yeah.
shoulder. That's true. That's awesome. Let's turn that up. Let's not turn him away. Let's turn that guy up.
And when
I
they
love
call-
his personality.
And when they asked him to fight Khabib, he stepped in on 1 day's notice. He was been training for Paul Felder, who's a fucking brawler. And even though he lost to Khabib, I mean, he stepped up, and other guys turned that fight down.
Well,
Fought his
that's
ass
what
off.
that's what Chael was talking about. You're a fighter. Be ready to fight whoever, whenever, right?
Yeah.
So, do you look at the Fedor fight that you have coming up and go like, okay, I really don't need to shit on Fedor. Number one, because I legitimately respect him. But number two, this is a big enough fight with two big enough names that I don't have to convince you as to why you should be interested in this thing.
I do believe that we're going to do really great business that
Yeah,
night,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I do believe that the place is going to be sold out. We're going to set record numbers. Scott Coker saying it's the biggest fight in UFC history. Other people are saying it's the biggest fight of 2018. I appreciate that, and that flatters me. My job is something else, which is to go in there and fight him. But it is very hard to come out and get a banter going with him. I don't not like Fedor. I don't like Fedor. I don't know Fedor, but neither does anybody else. And that does annoy me a little bit. You know, it does annoy me that he's on his way here from Russia right now to do media, to which he's not going to do. He's going to have an interpreter that looks like Snow White talking about Dumpy Dwarf, who is him, but he came from a different time. You know, some of those same problems I had with Anderson Silva, or that Chuck Liddell's going to go through when that, first off, that fight with Chuck and Tito's not going to happen. Second off, if it happens, which it's not, if it happens, nobody's going to watch. The reason is Chuck is from a different time. He used to be when the punches and kicks were enough. The UFC was doing 5 and 6 shows a year. Bellator didn't even exist. Scott Coker hadn't stepped into the space yet. If you could see two guys locked in a cage together,
Right.
that was enough. But
Right.
we are now living in the entertainment era, and it's a totally different era. There is 53 shows a year in a 52-week calendar year by the UFC. Scott Coker is putting on 23 shows a year, which in a 52-week calendar year means twice a month. The punches and kicks are not enough. And we've still got commentators that are locked in the 1990s that won't help a guy. They'll turn on the business before they'll help the business. They don't understand what we're doing here.
That's a
How
good
so?
point. It's very competitive, and now it's like, why would I watch this fight if two people I don't give a shit about? And this is for casual fans. When I could watch a guy who's at least got me interested and
Yeah.
is talking all week.
How do the commentators not help the business?
We'll have commentators that will go out when guys are fighting and they will disclose to the audience, well, he's only here because he talked a bunch of trash. It's like, first off, that's what we're doing. Okay, and I find it very ironic that a commentator whose only job is to talk, who's never had to get off his biscuit and get in there and risk it, but is making more money than anybody else who actually has. I find that very off-putting. And secondly, just operate within the confines of the truth. Okay, look at Colby Covington. Truth. Last time he stayed at a fighter hotel, he got in a street altercation with former heavyweight champion Fabricio Verdum, where criminal charges were pressed. Colby Covington has to go everywhere with security in an armored vehicle and has to stay at a private location because of the death threats made against him. Just tell the truth. All of those things are true, and the promoter's writing a check for a reason. And it isn't actually because he thinks somebody's going to get in a street altercation with the baddest dude in the world, who's Colby Covington. He's doing it hoping that somebody's got the intelligence God gave geese to come out on a microphone and tell the story to the world because it's captivating. But you still got these commentators that want to talk about the setup behind a jab followed by the right cross to the leg kick. Shut up, man. It's not what we're doing. That was in the 90s. Now we're in the entertainment era.
And you think that they're not servicing the entertainment part of it as much, and the fact that these guys are out here, you kind of you're putting your life out there and you're talking a lot, and then they're not going to address that at all. They're just going to talk about
they're not
pure. They're not selling
fights.
at all. They're talking about the pure mechanics of it.
Yeah, they don't understand it. They don't understand that the times have changed, and they will again. We're not going to be in the entertainment era forever.
Right.
We're going to go back, and then there's going to be your mega fights, and there's going to be your fights that follow the straight and hard. Right to we just saw one Cormier versus Stipe. That was an amazing event. You got two world champions locked into together from two different weight classes, two guys with integrity, with no problems, pillars of their community. Those things only come along every so often. The rest of the time, we're here to entertain. The integrity is preserved when you lock the cage door. It's not professional wrestling where the guys are working the spots out together and deciding who goes over. But that's it for right now. It will change yet again. But when you've got commentators that are stuck in the 90s that don't want to help the business and then want to go pick up a paycheck at the end of the night, they got to change too.